So today I'm going to talk about something that's a little more on the serious side and something that I don't address too often, and that is anxiety and dealing with anxiety while in college and how it changed me. So quick backstory, I used to be the most emotionless, non-anxiety depressed person ever. Like, I never dealt with anxiety or depression or basically like emotions hardly ever, like when it came to emotions, like with anxiety and depression and things like that. Obviously, like, I'd be happy and show excitement like that, but when it came to things like sad movies or medical moments or any emotional times, I never expressed emotions. I never cried during a movie. I didn't cry during the medical emergency that we had in my family a few years ago, and I always thought that was normal. So when I finally had to start dealing with anxiety, it felt like I had so much of it just built up in me that it all just came out, and I felt like I dealt with it so hard and so fast all at once. And since I had never dealt with it before, I don't know how to deal with it, and I didn't know what to do, and I was just really stuck. But now I'm like the exact opposite of what I was before. I'm super emotional. I just watched Endgame this weekend, and believe me, I cried during it. And so I'm wondering, like, what really happened and how do I deal with all this? So I actually remember the exact moment when I felt like I was having my first real anxiety attack, and that was one semester ago when I was in Chicago. It was my very first day of classes, and I was in one of my film classes. It was nighttime, it was one of my late classes, and I just freaked out over absolutely nothing. And I'm not sure what it was even to this day, but I remember that moment. Like, I couldn't cry because I was in class. All I wanted to do was get out of there, go lay in my bed and cry, but I can't. It was class, it was just beginning, and I couldn't do anything. I didn't know how to deal with it, and it was just super scary during that moment when I first dealt with that. So ever since then, I feel like I haven't been the same, and I'm a really different person from who I was a year ago. Little things will just make me upset really quickly. Like, one thing will set me off, a bunch of little things will be building up, but then one tiny little thing will set me off, and I will just have an emotional breakdown. I will cry, and I will know in my head, like, this is ridiculous. Why are you crying? This isn't something to be crying and getting emotional about. But it's not like I can just help it and stop crying and stop feeling emotional. I know that it's dumb what I'm doing, but you can't just stop it or fix it. And that's a really awful feeling to have, is knowing that you're not making any sense and you're being unreasonable, but you can't stop feeling that way. So I haven't been like diagnosed with anxiety or depression or things like that, so I'm not gonna say that I full on have it, but it sure does feel awful on the inside when I'm dealing with these feelings. But now I feel like I can relate to people that have anxiety and depression more, since I had never gone through it before. I didn't know how to help people with it. I didn't know how to deal with it, but now I can sympathize with them because I know what they're going through. Like, I know it sucks, I know it's hard, and I can just relate to them better now that I've actually been through this. So in a sense, I'm actually a lot stronger than I was before, but also weaker at the same time. So that's where I'm trying to look on the bright side of it and not make this such a horrible situation, is that I have learned from it. I'm a complete emotional wreck now, but I feel like I've learned a lot, and I'm still going through it, but I've learned a lot from it, and I'm continuing to grow through it and become a stronger person. Because I remember that time when I was at my absolute worst, when I was in Chicago. I felt like I was all alone there. I would go to sleep crying every single night, alone in my bed, just wishing to be back home, and now I'm in that place where I wish I would have been just a few months ago. So I feel like I've grown a lot in just those few months, because back then I was wishing, I wished I was back home, I wished I had my family with me, and now I do have those things, but I'm still dealing with it. But I'm in a better place now than I was just a few months ago back when I was in Chicago, so I have to look forward and keep remembering that it does get better, because when it seems tough now, I have to remember how tough it was back when I was there. So like I said, maybe it's not such a bad thing, and I just have to remember how far I've come since it first started and how much progress I've made. Even when it feels super bad now, I know that it's not as bad as it was when it first started. So yes, I still feel emotionally like crazy and don't even know how to deal with my emotions or anything like that, but I've come pretty far since when I first started, because like I've said, I never had to deal with anything like this before. So when it hit, I was just completely out of balance, out of whack, didn't know what to do at all, and was just completely like hopeless feeling. And so even though it hasn't been the longest time, I have been through it, the worst of it, I think, in my opinion, and I know that good things are to come. And I have gotten better at dealing with it, so that's always a good thing as well. And yeah, it's an awful feeling sometimes, but I have to realize I'm not alone in this, and there are people out there that will help me. So yeah, it's not always such a bad thing. And yeah, this video wasn't really about anything super important or anything in particular. I just felt the need to talk about it and express what I was thinking this whole time and my feelings. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say and get off my chest, and it felt really good to just talk about it. In a sense, it's like a therapy almost, just ranting about it. So yeah, I think that's all I had to say. So thank you for sitting through all this. If you did, I let out a lot of deep feelings and thoughts that I had in my mind, and that's all I have to say about it.